All right, so are you ready to dive deep into the future stars of the Premier League?
I am, are you?
Absolutely, I'm so excited. We're going to be uncovering those young players, the ones who are absolutely on fire right now and could become the next generation of superstars.
Yeah, the future of the league. It's really exciting to see.
I know, and we've got some great sources to help us out today.
Oh, yeah, fill me in.
First up, we've got a ranked list of the top 20 under 21 players from Give Me Sport.
Oh, okay, I like them. Good source.
Yeah, they've got some pretty interesting picks. Then we've got an article all about potential breakout stars. Those players who are maybe flying a bit under the radar right now, but are poised to have a massive impact.
Yeah, I love those. Those are always the most fun.
And we'll even take a peek at Goal.com's Player of the Season power rankings, just to see how the established young guns are stacking up against the new kids on the block.
Yeah, so comparing them to the youngsters coming through.
Exactly. And let me tell you, some big names are already missing from that top 10, which is pretty crazy when you think about it.
Yeah. Well, time moves fast in football.
It really does. So buckle up, folks, because we're about to dive into a world of young talent, incredible skills, and maybe even a few surprises along the way.
Sounds good. I'm ready.
All right, let's kick things off with that Give Me Sport top 20 list.
Yeah. Let's see it.
Now they've ranked these players based on a few different things like appearances, potential, goals, and assists.
Okay, so trying to capture both their current impact and, their future potential.
Exactly. And sitting pretty at number 1 is, drumroll please, Kobbie Mainoo.
Oh, Mainoo. He is something special.
I know, right? This 19-year-old Manchester United midfielder is drawing comparisons to Michael Carrick.
Wow, at only 19 years old. I mean, those are big shoes to fill.
Huge EE shoes. But honestly, he seems to be handling the pressure like a seasoned pro.
Yeah, he's got that same calmness, that composure on the ball that Carrick had.
And that ability to just, dictate the tempo of the game. It's incredible to watch.
But what's really exciting about Mainoo is that I think he's showing even more dynamism going forward than Carrick did at the same age.
Yeah. I mean, remember his performance in the FA Cup final against Manchester City. Unfazed by the occasion, he was bossing the midfield against some of the best players in the world.
Yeah, he's got that fearlessness, that Mainoo mania, as they were calling it, when he was partnering Declan Rice for England at the Euros.
Oh man, Mainoo was everywhere. I mean, to become a key player for both club and country at 19, that's pretty special, right?
Yeah, very few players can say they've done that. And what's even scarier is that he's only going to get better.
Definitely one to watch.
Yeah.
Now, number 2, we have another Manchester United wonder kid. It seems like they got a few of them, huh?
Yeah, they're doing something right over there at that academy.
Right. Okay, so number 2 is Alejandro Garnacho.
Oh, Garnacho. He's electrifying, isn't he?
He really is. This Argentine winger, he's got everything. The pace, the trickery, the eye for those spectacular goals.
Yeah, and he's a real fan favorite already, You can just feel the excitement in the stadium whenever he gets the ball.
Garnacho is pure box office, that's for sure. And let's not forget, he's had the opportunity to learn from some of the best in the world. Training alongside Messi with Argentina, sharing the pitch with Ronaldo at United.
Wow. Talk about a football education. Not many players can say they've had that kind of mentorship.
Seriously. And he's soaking it all up. You can see it. It's not just raw talent with him. He's clearly been studying those greats, absorbing their techniques and that mentality of, always wanting to win. I mean, how about that stat? The first Manchester United player to win 2 penalties in a single Premier League game. I was blown away watching that match against Everton. He was just terrorizing their defense.
Yeah. It's that willingness to learn and to refine his game that sets players apart. It's what separates the good from the truly great,
All right, ready to move on to number 3?
Yeah, hit me.
Let's shift gears a bit and head over to Manchester City, where we find Rico Lewis.
Another England international. It's really impressive to see how many young English players are making their mark on the league now.
It is. And what's remarkable about Lewis is his versatility. He can play across the back line, even in midfield.
Yeah, I love that about him.
And I think that tactical flexibility makes him such a valuable asset for a manager like Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, I mean, Pep is known for his, constantly adapting formations and game plans. So having a player like Lewis who can slot into multiple positions is a huge advantage.
It's like Pep has a secret weapon.
Yeah.
And we've seen him do this before with players like Phil Foden, who's blossomed into a world-class talent under Pep's guidance.
Yeah, Foden's the perfect example. It seems like Pep's got this magic touch when it comes to developing young talent.
Maybe he's got a secret formula hidden away somewhere.
Maybe. But seriously, it's impressive to watch.
Okay. For number 4, let's head down south to Tottenham, where we find Destiny Udogie, already considered one of the best left-backs in the league at just 21.
Udogie. He's a revelation, isn't he? I love watching him play.
His runs down the flank, they're electrifying. It's like he's got rockets strapped to his boots.
I know. He just brings that same attacking dynamism that Kyle Walker had for them,
It's almost poetic, isn't it? Walker leaving, and then Udogie stepping in to fill that void. I mean, finally, it seems like Tottenham have found those long-term replacements for Walker and Danny Rose.
Yeah, those attacking fullbacks, they defined Tottenham's style for so long. And it's been a struggle to find players who could replicate that.
But with Udogie, it looks like they might have finally cracked it. He's got that attacking flair, but he's also a solid defender. He really is the complete package.
Yeah, he's got it all. And he's only going to get better, which is pretty scary when you think about it.
All right, ready for our final player in the top 5.
Hit me.
Let's head back up north to Liverpool, where we find a familiar face, Harvey Elliott.
Oh, Elliott. He's been on my radar for a while.
Me too. This guy's journey has been incredible. I mean, from being the youngest ever player in the Premier League.
Can you imagine the pressure at that age?
I know, it's mind-blowing. And now to become such a vital part of Liverpool's midfield, it's insane.
And he's already tasted success too, with those 2 domestic cup final wins. That experience at such a young age is invaluable.
And I think what's so interesting about Elliott is how Jurgen Klopp has also utilized him as a super sub,
Yeah. Bringing him off the bench to inject that energy and creativity into a game, that's a real weapon.
It's like having a secret weapon you can unleash at any moment. He's the epitome of that modern attacking midfielder. He can start, he can come off the bench, he plays wide, centrally, creates chances, scores goals. It's incredible.
He's got that spark, that bit of magic that can unlock defenses. Yeah. And remember, he's still only 21. His potential is absolutely frightening.
Seriously. All right, so we've covered the top 5, but there's so much more talent on this list. I'm itching to dive into some of the other names that caught my eye.
I'm with you. Let's get to those hidden gems.
Okay, first up, Savinho at Manchester City. This Brazilian winger is fresh off a successful loan spell at Girona.
Oh, yeah. Helping them to reach the Champions League for the first time. That's a huge accomplishment.
I know. And now he's back at City, and he's already showing that he can handle the Premier League.
I think Savinho is the perfect example of how loan spells can be so beneficial for young players,
Yeah, it's like a trial by fire.
They get to gain valuable experience, really develop their game in a competitive environment, and then they come back to their parent club with this newfound confidence.
It's like they've leveled up.
Exactly. And Savinho, with his quickness and that technical ability, he's a real handful for defenders, I'll tell you.
No, he's definitely one to watch. Okay, next up, we've got Levi Colwill at Chelsea. Now, this is pretty mind-blowing. Last season, at just 20 years old, he captained Chelsea.
Whoa, hold on. 20 years old? That's unheard of.
I know. Especially when you think about it, he's the youngest captain they've had since John Terry.
Wow, that's saying something. John Terry, a true club legend. To be compared to him at that age, that's impressive.
Colwill, he's a natural leader. You see it on the pitch, that aura of authority, that ability to inspire his teammates. And his defensive skills, they're already top-notch.
He's the real deal. And, it's no wonder he's already drawing comparisons to John Terry.
Speaking of turning heads, this next player is making quite a stir in the transfer market.
Ooh, tell me more. Who are we talking about?
John Duran.
John Duran. Okay, yeah, he's been on my radar too.
This Aston Villa striker, he's been attracting some serious interest from big clubs like Chelsea and West Ham. I mean, They're practically circling him like sharks.
Yeah. It's his impact as a super sub that's got everyone talking. Duran, he has this knack for scoring crucial goals when his team needs them most.
He's a clutch player.
Totally. And he's got raw power, pace, that instinct for being in the right place at the right time.
It's like he can smell a goal. You definitely see why the big clubs are circling. I mean, he's a real talent. Okay, so moving on, we've got Adam Wharton, who's a rival at Crystal Palace, completely revitalized their midfield.
Wharton, he's a classic box-to-box midfielder, boundless energy, and that football IQ is off the charts.
I know. It's like he's everywhere on the pitch at once.
He breaks up attacks, dictates the tempo, distributes the ball with precision, even chips in with goals and assists. I mean, he's the complete package.
I feel like every team needs an Adam Wharton.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, we can't wrap up this list without mentioning Ethan Nwaneri at Arsenal. This guy broke records by becoming Arsenal's youngest ever debutant at just 15 years old.
Whoa, hold on. 15 years old. Was he even allowed to drive to the game?
I know, it's incredible. It's mind-blowing to think that he was playing Premier League football while most kids his age are still, doing their homework and playing video games.
It's incredible.
He's a raw talent, of course, but the fact that Mikel Arteta is giving him minutes in the first team says a lot.
Yeah, it shows that Arteta sees something special in him. And to be fair, Arteta's got a pretty good track record when it comes to developing young players.
Seriously. All right, so that's a taste of the incredible young talent on this top 20 list.
And honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We've got so many more players to talk about, and some of them are going to absolutely blow your mind.
I'm already excited. So let's move on to our next source, which is all about those potential breakout stars, those hidden gems who might not be household names yet, but they're on the verge of something big.
Okay, let's do it. Who will we be talking about? Well, one player who really jumped out at me was Morgan Rogers at Aston Villa.
Oh, yeah. I've heard some buzz about him.
He's been quietly developing under Unai Emery.
Yeah, Emery's got a knack for getting the best out of his players.
He really does. And Rogers, his preseason form was spectacular.
I saw some highlights. He looked sharp.
He's not just about pace and trickery, which you see a lot of from young wingers. He's got an end product.
Yeah, his stats are impressive. Isn't he averaging like a goal or assist every 160 minutes? That's crazy, especially for a young player still finding his feet in the Premier League.
It's phenomenal. And it's not just about the numbers either. Rogers is a really intelligent player. He understands space, makes those smart runs, and he's always in the right place at the right time.
Sounds like he's quickly becoming one of Emery's favorites.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised to see him become a key player for Villa this season. He's definitely one to watch.
It's amazing how a change of manager and a good preseason can completely transform a player's trajectory. Okay, the next potential breakout star is someone who's already turning heads with his dazzling skills. Yankuba Minteh at Brighton.
Oh, Minteh is a joy to watch. He's got lightning-fast feet, incredible dribbling ability, and he's not afraid to take on defenders.
He's fearless.
Totally. He's still raw, of course.
Well, he's only 20.
Exactly, but the potential is definitely there. I mean, he could be Brighton's next big sale, following in the footsteps of players like Caicedo and Trossard.
Brighton's got a real knack for unearthing these hidden gems and developing them into stars.
They do. They've got a great scouting network and a coaching setup that's perfect for nurturing young talent. It's a really impressive model they've built there. Before we move on, there was one more thing in that Goal.com Player of the Season article that I wanted to touch on.
And what's that?
Well, it's not directly about a rising star, but it highlights a really important point about the challenges these young players face. They mentioned that Phil Foden, last season's Player of the Season, isn't even in the current top 10.
Yeah, that's right. Foden's had kind of a slow start to the season.
And it just goes to show that even the most talented young players can experience these dips in form, Development isn't always linear.
Right. There could be peaks and valleys, moments of brilliance, and times when they struggle.
Exactly. And I think it's important to remember that these are still young players. They're still learning. They're still developing.
It's easy to get caught up in the hype when a young player bursts onto the scene.
Oh, yeah. We label them as the next big thing and expect them to become superstars overnight.
But we need to remember that they're human. They're not robots.
Right. They need time to grow. They need support. And sometimes they just need a little bit of patience from the fans and the media.
It makes you think about the role we play as fans. Are we contributing to the pressure? Or are we providing a positive, supportive environment?
That's a great point. I think we all have a responsibility to be mindful of the impact our words and actions can have on these young players.
Well said. So we've talked about individual players. We've touched on the challenges they face. But let's zoom out a bit and look at the Premier League as a whole. I mean, the sheer amount of young talent right now is just incredible. It's exciting.
It really is. It's like we're witnessing a golden age for young talent.
And what's so fascinating is not just the quantity, but the diversity of their skills and styles,
It's like a tapestry of talent, with each player bringing something unique to the game.
We've got everything from elegant playmakers to powerful strikers, lightning-fast wingers, and rock-solid defenders.
It's amazing, and that variety is fantastic for the league. It keeps things unpredictable and exciting for the fans.
It forces every team to adapt and evolve, to find new ways to counter these young stars. And I can already picture some epic battles brewing. I mean, Menu and Garnacho leading the charge for Manchester United up against Lewis and Foden at Manchester City.
Oh, man, that would be incredible. Or Udogie bombing down the left flank for Tottenham, going head-to-head with Trent Alexander-Arnold at Liverpool.
Stop. I can't handle it. The possibilities are endless. And let's not forget those potential breakout stars we discussed. Players like Morgan Rogers and Yankuba Minta.
Yeah, they could very well be the ones writing the next chapter of Premier League history.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it. It's enough to make your head spin. But in a good way, of course. We're witnessing the future of the Premier League unfolding right before our eyes.
We are, and it's going to be spectacular. So to answer your question about what this all means for the future of the Premier League, well, I think we're in for a very exciting and unpredictable era.
I'm ready for it. Tell me more.
I think the traditional hierarchy could be disrupted. Teams that have dominated for years, they might find themselves challenged by clubs who are investing heavily in youth development.
So you're saying we could see a changing of the guard?
It's definitely possible. Look at what's happening at clubs like Arsenal and Newcastle. They're building their teams around these young, hungry players, and they're already reaping the rewards.
It's like a changing of the philosophies too, right? Clubs are realizing that developing young talent isn't just about saving money on transfers.
It's about creating a sustainable model for success, a team built on a foundation of homegrown talent.
It's about building for the future, not just chasing short-term gains. And it's exciting to see this happening across the league.
It really is. And that's where the real excitement lies, We're not just watching individuals grow. We're watching the league itself evolve. It's dynamic, it's unpredictable, and I, for one, can't wait to see where this journey takes us.
Okay, before we go too far down that road, let's circle back to Phil Foden for a second. You mentioned earlier that he's having a bit of a slow start to the season. Why do you think that is? What are some of the factors at play?
Well, I think it's important to remember that Foden set an incredibly high bar last season, winning player of the season. So there's always going to be a bit of regression to the mean.
Right, like anything less than exceptional is going to feel like a disappointment.
Exactly. And that kind of pressure can be tough to handle, especially for a young player. It's also worth considering the tactical changes that Pep Guardiola is constantly implementing at Manchester City.
Right. I mean, Pep is a master tactician, but his systems are complex. It takes time for players to adapt.
Absolutely. And it's not always easy for young players to immediately grasp those nuances. They have to learn new roles, adjust to different positions. It takes time.
And then there's the mental side of things. Confidence plays a huge role in a player's performance. And if their form dips, it can sometimes create this downward spiral.
It's all interconnected,
right.
The physical, the tactical, and the mental. And for young players, it's about finding that equilibrium, that balance that allows them to thrive.
Yeah, they're not machines, they're human beings.
Exactly. And I think sometimes we forget that.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit to the broader picture, the future of the Premier League.
Yeah.
What are some of the trends or patterns that you're observing? What's catching your eye as you analyze this landscape of young talent?
Well, one trend that's becoming increasingly evident is the growing emphasis on academy development. Clubs are investing more than ever in their youth setups.
Yeah, it's like they're planting seeds for the future.
They are. And the clubs that nurture those seeds properly, they're the ones who will reap the rewards in the years to come. We're already seeing this happening, right? I mean, clubs like Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, they're all reaping the benefits of their investments in youth development.
It's not just about producing world-class players, though, is it?
No, it's about so much more than that. It's about fostering a culture of excellence, a belief in the club's identity,
It's about creating a sense of belonging, a shared vision for the future.
Exactly. Earlier we talked about the influence of managers like Pep Guardiola and Mikel Arteta in shaping the development of young players.
Oh, yeah, they're both doing amazing things with their young stars.
They really are. And I think what sets them apart is their willingness to trust young players, to give them opportunities to shine on the biggest stage. It's almost like they see potential even before the players themselves realize it.
It's like they've got this sixth sense for spotting talent.
Maybe they do. But I also think it's about creating a culture of learning, a space where young players feel empowered to express themselves, to take risks, to grow without fear of failure.
It's about fostering that creativity and that love for the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have that combined with talent and the right guidance, well, that's when the magic happens.
That is. It's a recipe for success. And it's why I believe that this current crop of young players in the Premier League are in such good hands. They're being guided by some of the best minds in the game, and the possibilities for their development are endless.
It's an incredibly exciting time to be a fan of the Premier League. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to touch on something that's often debated in football, the whole academies versus street football thing.
Oh yes, the classic debate.
So we've talked extensively about the incredible infrastructure, the resources, the coaching that Premier League clubs are pouring into their academies. But there's also this belief that street football, that raw, unstructured style of play, that it's equally important, especially for developing creativity and those natural instincts.
That's a really interesting point. I think there's definitely truth to that. Street football allows players to experiment, to express themselves without the constraints of a structured environment.
It's like a different kind of education.
It is. It's where they learn to problem solve, to adapt, to think on their feet, and develop those instinctive reactions that you can't teach in a training session. So I think ideally you want to find a balance between the two.
Right. A player who's benefited from both the structured coaching of an academy and the freedom and improvisation of street football, they're going to have this more well-rounded skill set, like combining that technical proficiency and tactical awareness that you get from academies with the flair, the creativity, the street smarts that come from playing in those unstructured environments.
Exactly. And, I think clubs should really encourage their young players to engage in both forms of the game. It's not about choosing one over the other.
It's about recognizing the value of both and nurturing the whole player, the individual.
Beautifully put. And that actually leads perfectly into the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore what this youth movement means for the future of English football as a whole.
Ooh, the stakes are getting higher. Can't wait to delve into that. So we've talked about all these amazing young players in the Premier League, but what does this mean for England's national team? I mean, is this a sign that the Three Lions are finally ready to roar again on the international stage?
Well, it's definitely a promising sign.
Yeah.
For years, people have been talking about the golden generation of English players: Lampard, Gerrard, Beckham, Rooney, Ferdinand, those guys.
Oh, yeah. Incredibly talented. But they never quite reached their full potential on the international stage, did they?
Right. And there's been this debate, will we ever see a group of players that talented again?
And could this current crop of youngsters be the ones to finally bring football home?
It's hard to say for sure. It's early days, but the potential is there. What excites me about this generation is their mentality, They seem to have this fearlessness, a swagger that we haven't seen in a while. They're not afraid to express themselves, to take risks, to really believe in their abilities.
Yeah, we saw that at Euro 2024, didn't we? Players like Manu, Garnacho, Lewis, they weren't intimidated by the big stage at all.
No, not at all. They embraced the challenge and showed the world what they're capable of. And that's what gives me hope, They're not carrying the weight of past failures on their shoulders.
Yeah, they're creating their own story, their own legacy.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe this time the story will have a happy ending.
I love that. And you can feel the excitement building around the national team again. The fans are really connecting with this young generation of players. It's like their energy, their passion, it's contagious.
Absolutely. And that connection between the players and the fans, it's crucial. It creates this positive energy, a sense of belief that can be incredibly powerful. It's like that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Right.
When these young players are thriving, it lifts the entire footballing ecosystem, the clubs, the national team, the fans, everyone.
Exactly. And all starts with nurturing these young talent, giving them the platform and the support they need to reach their full potential.
So to wrap things up, I guess what we've learned today is that the future of English football is looking pretty bright.
It is. There's so much talent coming through the ranks. And it's not just about individual brilliance. It's about a shift in mentality, a new era of English football.
It's about believing in ourselves, about playing with passion and fearlessness, about daring to dream big. And I, for one, am so excited to see what the future holds.
Me too. The future is bright, and it's being shaped by these incredible young talents who are rewriting the rules of the game. Well said. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive, folks. But don't worry, this is just the beginning of the story. Stay tuned, because the next chapter is going to be even more exciting.
I can't wait.